Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Given to temptation, pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. I had a chance to watch The Five Bloods on Netflix this Sunday. And after watching The Five Bloods, I really was not impressed with what Spike Lee presented on screen. Now, when I take a look at The Five Bloods and compare it to masterpiece films that Spike Lee has produced in the past, like Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X, it falls into the lesser category of films like Girl 6 and Get on the Bus. And your Five Bloods has the same issues that hampered Get on the Bus and led to it breaking down by the second and third act of the film. Because like Get on the Bus, The Five Bloods focuses too much on modern day social issues and does not allow the story to tell itself. And this big problem with The Five Bloods prevents the viewer from seeing the social commentary that is presented to it clearly. Instead, we get a film that focuses mostly on trying to tell us how to feel and think instead of letting us draw our own conclusions. Now, on the surface, your Five Bloods is supposed to be about these five black soldiers who were in the Vietnam War and how they're coming together to pay respects to one of their late troop partner associates, Storm and Norman, who was their leader and squad leader, and they are also there to go get this locker of gold that was left in that area, that they buried in that area to take as so-called reparations. So I'm seeing a lot of social justice being shoehorned into this movie, and it really prevents it from flowing organically. Now, about 30, 40 years later, all of these men, Paul, Otis, Eddie, and Melvin, meet up in your Ho Chi Minh City to begin a plan to find this gold. And these older men, again, they come there with this plan, and the story really does not come together because of the screenplay and the uneven way it was written. Now, this script was originally written for white actors by your Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, who were producers of the 1990 Flash TV series, but Spike brought this script and then reworked it with Kevin Wilnot to make a film that would feature black characters. Unfortunately, as they were reworking the script, they didn't really focus too much on the second and third acts of the film, and because they did not focus on the second and third act of the film, the story does not really come together, and it starts to, fall completely apart in the second and third act, because while that first act really shows us these really strong pictures of black men being forced into this Vietnam War and being forced to fight this Vietnam War because that's what actually happened, because your racists, what they wanted to do, like Lyndon Johnson, they wanted to escalate the offensive in Vietnam, and they wanted to draft black male soldiers to go fight this war in an effort to kill off our best and brightest black men. And black men disproportionately were drafted into this war, and when they came home, they got no support. Now, that part is factually true. Unfortunately, when it's in the story, the first act, while it helps make the story strong, unfortunately, in the later acts, the whole film falls apart and becomes a by-the-numbers action adventure film similar to what I saw in 1970's El Condor starring Jim Brown. Now, El Condor had a similar plot to The Five Bloods where Jim Brown was on this quest to break this fortress, El Condor, and it was filled with lots of gold. And that's where the film really starts. That's where the second and third act of The Five Bloods goes, with these crosses and double crosses and these big epic action battles that really fall flat. I mean, it just does not come together to become one solid, cohesive film. And like Get on the Bus Again, it's the commentary really gets muddled because it doesn't know whether it wants to be an action movie or a social commentary on these five men and their relationships as related to how much respect they want to pay to their squad leader Norman. So when I look at this film, it doesn't have the clear vision that Do the Right Thing had, Malcolm X had, or even School Days had, and that really makes for the commentary becoming really muddled because on the surface we get this message about brotherhood and empowerment, but when we look between the lines of the film, we get this commentary that shows us that black manhood really isn't about those things, and we really get a real condemning commentary on this baby boomer generation of black males who talked all this brotherhood but then had no love for their sons. Because if we look at the Paul character and his relationship with his son, he is so cruel to his son. It reminded me a lot of what the baby boomers did to the people of Gen X and how they just gave us absolutely nothing. And it was all about them, all about their egos, and all about them getting this glory. So it really, they talk about all of this empowerment and talk about doing things for the community, but in actuality, it was all about them getting theirs and then them going off into their glory. They were all talking about what they were going to do with this gold, and they were also talking about their lives. And again, we see from the way they behaved, they really didn't do much for the previous generation. We look at Otis, who will practically abandon his daughter. We look at the other guy who said he had all the money and how he practically had none and left no legacy. And then we look at the Melvin, he just didn't have much. And we look at them and they really don't really do much for anyone. I mean, David is the one who gets verbally abused by his father. While his father is suffering from PTSD, he's looking to help his father, but his father is one of the most selfish people in the group. He practically takes his gold and walks away, and he winds up, because he's disturbed, he winds up going out here and leading to him getting himself killed. So he winds up taking the gold and leaving his son no legacy. And it's really, again, I look at this commentary Spike is making, and the real commentary is one that practically condemns the baby boomers while he's passively talking about these five men and their brotherhood and how they're looking out for each other. He also makes a commentary about how the baby boomers did nothing for the next generation, and and then once they get this gold, instead of them looking to go out here and look out for themselves, they really do nothing with this gold, and it's really this film towards the end really makes me shake my head because there was again a lot of talk about this empowerment, but at the end there was nothing there to empower black men. I mean, I don't really see much here as related to empowering black men because yes, they cash out the gold, but we get most of the money not going to building black businesses or going out here to build and help out black families. No, we get this message where everybody gets their shares and then a share is given to Black Lives Matter. And when I saw Black Lives Matter being presented in this film, that really annoyed me because it showed me it was more about social justice than talking about black manhood and black masculinity. Because to talk about these five brothers making all this hard work and sacrifice, but there's no efforts to talk about developing your son to carry your legacy or telling them to give them something of substance as related to a legacy. That was a problem for me with this film. Now, I know there's a lot of people who say they relate to some of the things here, but when I look at the story again, I see the same problems that Get on the Bus had, in that the story really, it was uneven. It just focused so much on the modern social issues that the story and the social commentary practically got lost because it was so muddled. You really didn't get that clear message as related to the theme. And this whole story was black men making compromises and winding up with nothing at the end of the day. And that really doesn't, again, show anything about black empowerment, because, again, if Black Lives Matter is getting money, Black Lives Matter does not work in the interest of black men. And that's something Spike needed to do some research on, because when you look at your Black Lives Matter, they exploit the deaths of black men in order to push agendas for single mothers and members of the alphabet community, and not try to push towards building strong black families with strong black fathers. So there's a lot of issues with this film that I have, because the commentary really is not really clear. The message really isn't clear, and I really didn't see much of a positive message as related to black manhood and black masculinity. I mean, I saw everything being promoted in this film from they promoted a lot of things that I just did not like seeing. And this film, while a lot of black people, I believe, are praising it because they're starved for the image of a black man, it doesn't really give us that positive image of a black man. Now, I'll say that Spike Lee did an amazing job with the cinematography on this film. There's a lot of beautiful shots in this film, but as related to the plot and character development, this film really needed another rewrite, because, yes, he put a lot of black culture in the beginning of the film, but the excessive social justice as related to taking jabs at President Donald Trump, and especially one final scene in the movie where he has a Trump stand-in, it really comes across as really SJW in that point. And because when a guy puts on the MAGA hat and is wearing the white suit and he's the guy pulling the swerve, that was a Trump stand-in. And I really wanted to see less of stuff like that. And I wanted to see these characters become their own characters, deal with their own issues, and deal with their own stories, and not be bogged down by people trying to push identity politics and social justice. Because had they just let the story be the story, it might have been a far better film. But I think they did that because they were overcompensating for the script, which was uneven in some places. Again, I was reminded a lot of Jim Brown's El Condor with this film. And again, I think Spike Lee could have done better than an El Condor copy for the second and third act. I believe he could have done far better with this film. But a lot of people are praising it, but I can't really praise it. I can say go ahead and watch it and come to your own conclusion. But my conclusion with the film was it is a lesser Spike Lee film. It is not on the level of Do the Right Thing or Malcolm X. It is one of those films that if you have some time to watch it, go ahead and watch it. But don't expect anything as related to a masterpiece level that some people are saying that this film is. It is just a basic, average film. And I know Spike Lee could do way better than this if he had a far better and superior script. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App. And that's how I pay for the Netflix to watch these movies. And if you want to try some of my positive African-American fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, you can pick up my books in the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to